All right. So we're looking at Tuesday, April 24th. We're going to be going farther with Outsiders. We're going to talk a wee bit about Chapter 8, get into a bit of Chapter 9. Tomorrow we'll do more from 9 going into 10. Test coming up on Monday. Talk about the end of the book Friday. If you're one of the kids who finishes the book, I do have the extra credit crossword / word search thing if you're wanting to do it. It is optional. It does get you B points or extra credit if you're wanting it. The extra credit would go onto your test grade that's coming up on Monday, or you can go straight for the B points, but you do have to finish the book before you get a chance to do that.
How will you know if we finish the book?
There, once again, I step tomorrow. Then with the stuff we had with you guys before, we had the big fire that happened. When they went in there with the big fire and the burning and the children and all that, the church, I believe, was only like a one-story church. So, because how did they save the kids? And I had kids who got concerned. They're like, they're throwing children out a window and they're going to go splat. I mean, that's something I would happily do to save a child. I would throw you out of a window no matter how high it was. But I believe with them, it was just a one-story building. So when you're throwing a kid out the window, they're falling like 2 feet on the ground. Which doesn't stop the kids from having issues. Because as they're trying to save them, what is it the kids do?
My ankle!
They bit them, and that's, for me, my imagination kicked in with them trying to throw kids out windows and they biting onto them. I imagine like little cartoon piranhas like shaking them around, like rah, 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 little kid flopping around, and then pulling the kid off and then throwing it out a window from there. And they got to the point where eventually the whole roof of it collapses, and they talk about the giant beams that are at the top falling down and crushing them. Ponyboy makes it out-ish, but his back's on fire. So as he's coming out of the fire, out of the church with the back on fire, who ends up helping him?
Dally.
Now, part of the issue with Dally is Dally's not really good at this whole life-saving thing. So Dally's first step of stop, drop, and roll is punch you, then stop, drop, and roll. Because Dally's like, you're on fire. Now you're on the ground. And that's how he helps him out. And then, that's where we have our issue with Johnny. Two things happen with Johnny. One, he does get burnt really badly because the whole ceiling sort of collapses on him and burns, third-degree burns over most of his body. But it's okay. He can't feel the burns. Why can't he not feel the burns?
He broke his back.
Yeah, because when it fell on it, it broke his spine, thus paralyzing him, and now he can't feel anything. So it becomes one of those good news, bad things. Hey, your entire body is burnt. You're going to be in pain for the rest of your life. Wait, JK, not in pain. You just can't walk. And so we have to have the whole falling on and the pain thing. And then Dally also gets hurt. I don't know if Dally got hurt helping Ponyboy put out the fire or pulling Johnny out, but with Dally, it was just his arm got all burnt up. And I don't know if it was the putting out one fire or pulling the other kid out, but at some point, Dally's whole arm got himself all burnt up and nasty and baconified and stuff like that.
I thought that's something like punch Ponyboy.
Could have been. Maybe he hit him across. They don't really say. He just said he hurt himself when he was helping them during the fire. Sean?
When are we going to do that, review game?
Right. And so in the process of doing all of the saving, we get him out and it ends up taking him to, the hospital. And that's where you have the line where the old teacher guy was like, hey, you can't smoke in here. And Ponyboy was like, why not? Because he didn't see a sign. And that was not what the old guy, do you guys know what the old guy meant when he said you can't smoke?
He's underage.
Yeah, because he was only like 14 years old. He was like, you can't smoke, you're 14. He's like, I've been smoking since I'm 8. It's okay. He's like, that doesn't make it any better. He's like, yeah, it does. A couple things to help you that happen in the book that may not have made sense. One was on that page 111 when Ponyboy gets back and they start talking. We find out they're saying, hey, we're going to throw a big party and we're going to have Soda Pop and all those people. And Ponyboy asks if Soda Pop's going to bring Sandy. And there's a weird fight that breaks out between them. I'm going to explain what happened. So it's on page 111 where it says, you going to take Sandy to that party? I asked, just to be saying something. And then instant silence. I looked around. What? What's the deal? Soda Pop was just staring down at his feet, but his ears were getting red. No, she went to live with her grandmother in Florida. What? How come? Look, Steve said, surprisingly angry. Does he have to draw you a picture? It's either that or get married. And her parents always hit the roof at the idea of her marrying a 16-year-old kid. 17, Soda said softly. I'll be 17 in a couple of weeks. Oh. I said, embarrassed. Soda wasn't innocent. I'd been in on bowl sessions, and his bragging was as loud as anyone's. But he never bragged about Sandy. Not ever about her. I remembered how her blue eyes had glowed when she looked at him. I was sorry for her. All right, so with Sandy, wee bit confusing on this one is because they're using old 1950s references that probably you're not going to pick up real easily. But Sandy had a choice to make. What were the two things Sandy had to do?
Get married or go back to Florida.
There you go. She either had to get married or go to Florida. And this was a much more common thing back then than it is today, where a boy and a girl would make a choice, and then 9 months later, another choice would come along. And so prior to that choice happening, parents said, you either have to get married because you have to be married to have this kid, or we're going to go send you to live with relatives somewhere else to go have the baby, but it's not around here, because if it's around here, then you're going to bring shame to the family and stuff like that. So because of that, they gave her the choice, get married or leave. But the problem was, how old is Soda Pop?
16.
17.
Yeah, just turned 70. And so they're like, you can't marry him. He's too young, so that only gives you one option, which is we're kicking you out. So that's why Soda Pop gets all embarrassed, because he realized, whoops-a-doodle, I made a poor choice, and now she has to leave. But that was what was going on there. With Randy, with that whole conversation where he and Ponyboy meeting at the Tasty Freeze, we kind of met Randy earlier, but he was not a main character. Who's Randy's best friend? Bob. Who's Randy dating?
Marsha.
Or
Marcellia.
the Italian version, Marcellia.
I was so close.
Nailed it. And so he was one of those original Socs who was drunk and then showed up to the movie theater. When Cherry and Marcia went to the movie theater and they were upset about their dates who were drunk, Randy was one of those drunk dates. When the blue Mustang pulled up and got all mean, he was one of those Socs that was in that blue Mustang. So that's Randy. The problem is, Randy doesn't want to go to the Rumble and fight. And why does he not want to fight?
Because his friend was stabbed, shanked in the leg.
Kind of takes the fun out of going to a Rumble when you just watched your friend get shanked and die because of the same exact thing. He's like, I mean, Rumbles were fun when it was us beating you guys up and you bleeding a lot, but as soon as you fought back and stabbed my friend and he died, I kind of lost the joy. And Ponyboy's like, yeah, I'm having trouble feeling bad for you on that one. Remember the part where you tried to kill me. But that's where Randy says, if I go, I'm not honoring Bob because this is not what Bob would want. If I don't go, what's everyone going to think of him?
He's a loser.
He's a big chicken and a loser. So he's like, either way, this does not work out for me. Either people make fun of me for being a loser, or I can't live with myself because of my best friend. And Ponyboy's like, yeah, that kind of sucks to be you. I feel bad for you. He's like, except once again for the part where you tried to drown me and kill me. But other than that, they bonded for a moment and stuff like that. When we meet Johnny's mom, a couple of things with that scene. One, what kind of lady is Johnny's mom?
Not nice.
Meanie.
A drunk.
Did you say feisty? Sure, feisty. She is definitely mean. That's where Johnny doesn't get along with her. Two-Bit ends up yelling at her in the hallway. One of the things they mention in there is that Johnny's dad beats him with a 2x4.
What?
If you don't know what a 2x4 is, this is the 2x4. So when it talks about his dad beating him, this is what his dad uses to beat him. One, you shouldn't beat a kid.
I've gotten a spatula before.
Two, you probably shouldn't beat a kid.
You see the marks on that.
So that's why Johnny talked about the fact that he's always running away or sleeping over at Pony's house or sleeping in the empty lot or hardly spending any time at the house because he's always trying to get distance from his family. Problem is, that's going to change because what just happened to Johnny?
He just got paralyzed.
He got paralyzed, which means he's probably going to be in a wheelchair and stuck at home all the time with parents who beat you with the 2x4. Good news is,
Would they still do that to
you can't
him?
feel the beatings, but I'm not sure that's the good news you're looking for. So it really kind of, I think that's as Johnny starting to realize, my whole future is basically awful because I'm going to have to spend all my time with people I really hate, which is weird because when he was at the church, who are the only people he wanted to know if they asked about him? His parents. He's like, did my parents ask about me? He's in that, loves his parents, even though he has a pretty messed up relationship with his parents. For some of you, I'm sure you're like,
I mean, they don't beat with a 2x4, but I feel the same way. I hate those people, but I sure love at the same time. Parents, right?
Then Ponyboy doesn't have to stay in the hospital because he had the big jacket on, which saved him, and Dally saved his life by punching him. Remember that the next time you get in trouble for punching a kid, like, no, I was saving your life. I thought you were on fire. And they're like, it wasn't my fault. You weren't on fire. I was confused. But that's where Dally tries to save him. The two characters who end up spending time in there because they're on fire or because they were burnt were
Johnny and Dad.
well done. So Dally, he's temporarily burnt with the arm thing, but then you have Johnny's in there for a while. And then the Johnny hospital got to that one. Oh, he does request one thing, because it's going to pop up later in the book.
The knife thing or the
The one
book?
with the wire.
Yeah, so Johnny requests the book, where he's like, hey, I'd really like to have the book. Sorry, hiccup. I'd like to have the book, because I'd like to be able to have someone read it to me, because trapped here, not very happy about it. And then we get to Dally. Yeah, I covered that one. And then Dally also has a request, which is a different thing. Now, do you know why Dally wants the switchblade?
To go
Go show it
kill
off.
somebody in the rumble.
Show it off.
Now the problem is, which I've heard the guess, is to use it in the Rumble. But the problem is, we know he can't use it in the Rumble.
They can't. It's like this.
Because
It's
why?
only wrestling, like this.
Correct. Skin only. You can't use weapons. So that's not why Dally's bringing it. It was not for the Rumble. Here's where Dally has some issues, if you will. Part of Dally's issue getting into things is he's going to try and use it to break out of the hospital. I don't think Dally realizes how hospitals work. That the fact that you can just walk out of a hospital, that it's not the same thing as a prison. But I'm not sure Dally's been in the mouth and he's like,
I'm going to use a knife, and I'm going to stab my way out.
they're like, you can just use the door. It's over there. It's a lot faster. But that's sort of Dally, which you'll find out coming up. He explains.
See
like,
that window right there?
I'm gonna stab my way
Take a
out.
hold
They're
down
like,
this guy.
like I said, Dally's got some issues. I think this is one of his. He's like, what? They help people here? What's this help thing you're talking about? So I don't think Dally's used to sort of how things work along those lines. No, and then the Cherry and Ponyboy, when they get into their whole big fight thing from there, what is it Ponyboy wants Cherry to do?
Let's go see Johnny.
Why will she not?
Because like he killed her boyfriend.
Which, I mean, you have to give her credit for. I mean, you have Ponyboy who's like, come on, come visit Johnny. She's like, you do realize what Johnny did. And he's like, so he killed your boyfriend. She's like, yeah, the part where he killed my boyfriend. He's like, well, he was kind of a jerk. He's like, but he was a jerk that brought me flowers. And so they have that little bonding moment. They sort of yell at each other back and forth. And then they end talking about sunsets because teenagers, they're like a regular roller coaster ride of emotions. Like, I hate you, sunsets. I hate you, prettiness. And they go back and forth and stuff from there. Chapter 9. If you've not finished Chapter 9, I highly recommend reading Chapter 9 not in public. Because there are things that happen in Chapter 9 that you're probably not going to want to have other people around you for. If you've finished Chapter 9, that makes sense to you. If you've not finished Chapter 9, my hint to you would be don't read Chapter 9 while you're in I-Step tomorrow. You're going to want to read Chapter 9 where you don't have people around you, is the best I can say. Well, I can't tell you without you knowing what happens in there. Now, as always, you're welcome to ignore me, but for those of you who have these things called emotions, Chapter 9 is a tough one on the emotions part. And so that's where you're going to want to probably read it without people around you. McGuire.
So I've seen the movie and like Chapter 9 is that one.
Find out. Read Chapter 9. You let me know how it matches up.
I was just wondering.
No, that works for
That
me
was like
too.
a pretty emotional part of the movie.
So tomorrow, we are going to talk about the Rumble to give you guys a chance to get through that. If you finish the actual book, then you can come talk to me. We can talk about trying to get you the extra credits. And then we'll talk about the Rumble, and then we're going to talk about them going to the hospital after the Rumble. And so we'll go through and talk about that tomorrow. And then Thursday, we're going to end up talking about a scene coming up with Dally, and then the end of the book. I think that's it for today.